Hey everyone, welcome back to Chatting with Ashley. I just wanted to drop in real quick and share some insights that I had while I was reading in my scriptures last week. So I am following what's called the Come Follow Me program, which is a large group study guide that is used by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and it changes which book of scripture they're studying at the time. And this year, that group study guide is delving into a book of scripture called the Book of Mormon. So I've decided to delve into this book as well and study along with this study guide of Come Follow Me. And as I was reading the week 1 reading suggestions, it was all about the introduction and the coming forth, how this Book of Mormon was even created, where it came from, what it has inside it, these types of things. And a couple of things really stood out to me. In particular, the witness pages. So in the first few pages of this book, it tells about how the book was brought into existence. And then it talks about people who handled and saw and are bearing witness of the original metal plates that had been inscribed on that were translated to create this book. And something really stood out to me in one of these witnesses. One of the things that in the recovery groups and in the boundaries class that I teach, that I talk about, is that our thoughts, our feelings, our opinions, our views, the things that make us who we are sacred, and that we choose who we're going to share these things with, especially if they were sacred experiences for us. That we don't just share sacred things with everyone. We identify if it's safe to share, and if so, how much is safe to share. And as I was reading in these introduction pages, they have 2 sections of witnesses, and one of the sections of witnesses says that these things that we experienced were sacred to us. Nevertheless, we were commanded by the Lord to share and bear witness of it. And that word, nevertheless, just spoke so many things to me. First, what it told me is that they didn't want to share. They weren't inclined to come in and open themselves up to all of the thoughts and opinions of everyone around them about this sacred thing that they had experienced. They didn't want to share that, and it completely makes sense. When we're sharing sacred things, we're vulnerable, and they knew that talking about this experience they'd had, there'd be people who didn't hold it as sacred. There'd be people who would downright tear it down, not just not hold it as sacred, but actively attack them for it and tear them down for it. And it wasn't a safe thing to share. Now, when I'm working in my boundaries class, I will say, if you're going to be torn down and attacked for this, if this person's not going to be able to hold and honor what you're sharing, don't share it with that person. Share it with someone who can honor it with you. And these witnesses, they didn't want to share. They wanted to follow that idea of holding something sacred for them. Nevertheless, the Lord commanded them to. And I'm so grateful that they were willing to speak up and speak out about something that they had seen and experienced, even though it didn't feel safe. And it made me wonder, what does that mean for my life? Are there times when I need to speak up, even though I'm not sure that it's safe? And how do I know? And I think the key for how do I know is that piece about the Lord commanded them. That when prompted by the Spirit, if there's something I need to say, then I say it, even if it's scary. If there's something that I need to do, then I do it, even if it doesn't feel like I really want to do it, right? So it was just cool. It was just cool. And then the last thing is that they were willing to follow this thing that the Lord commanded them to do, even though they didn't want to. And how I'm sure that I could just do a quick little internet search and come up with myriads of websites and thousands of people who have attacked these men, who have torn down and said these witnesses were lying or whatever, and that their willingness to be open to that kind of attack also provided me the opportunity to see what was sacred and to honor what was sacred for them. And I know sometimes I think we have both. Sometimes I think we have both. So in the spirit of following their example, one thing that I have felt really strongly to do is to start just discussing scripture, and specifically where we see relationship patterns and boundaries when it comes to the text of the scripture and God. I always say that God is a God of boundaries, and this year I feel like it's time for me to talk about it. So starting this week, I'm hoping to release one video a week, specifically following this Come Follow Me study guide, simply because somebody else already organized that. So no reason for me to reinvent the wheel. It'll just be easier if I follow that. This video is a week behind. I was talking about what last week's reading was, but I'm hoping to get a second video out this week that talks about what this week's video is. I'm calling this the Replenish program, a dive into the relationships and the boundaries found in scripture. Starting this year with the Book of Mormon, simply because I didn't want to reinvent the wheel, but looking at other books of scripture, hopefully, as we go. So hopefully this is something that I'm able to do weekly. If you're interested in coming and being a part of the discussion, I am taking requests to come and be part of the discussion. And so sometimes it will just be me, sometimes it'll be a group of people, and we'll all just talk about what we read that week and what kind of boundaries and relationship patterns we noticed in the scripture that can maybe be applicable to our lives. So join me for Replenish. I'll record all of them and upload them, but if you want to come be part of the discussion, just reach out and let me know. And yeah, hopefully we see you there.